Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is optibotimus coming at you with another video review. And today we're going to be taking a look at the new Hot Toys MMS 354 of the 1/6 scale Alien Warrior from Aliens. Now, as you can see, we're kind of zoomed in a little bit close here. That's because packaging wise, this thing is huge. I mean, coming all the way back. That's how big that box is. That is a huge package. I honestly didn't think it was going to be that big, but I guess it kind of makes sense because, you know, the figure is actually pretty big, but a lot of it is just kind of the way that the clamshell is kind of laid out. But for the package here, you got this really cool kind of reflective sort of outer box. If you're familiar with a lot of the die-cast figures that came out from like Iron Man, it's a very similar kind of look to it in terms of a plasticky kind of reflective bit here on the outside. As you come down here, you can see you got a really cool silhouetted image of the Alien Warrior itself. Then on the side of the box here, you got the aliens. On the back of the package, you got the various warnings and contact information for Hot Toys. But then, as you can see, this whole section here just slides up just like so very easily. And what you're left with is the clamshell. Now, like I was saying, the way that they did the clamshell actually is what kind of contributes to how big the actual package is, because a lot of the bottom section here is made up of what essentially is an extra clamshell that protects and holds on to the actual display stand. So a lot of times it's set behind the figures. This way here, it's actually taking up this bottom almost quarter of the box. So it ends up making the package a lot bigger. But on the side here, you can see that you don't really have much of anything. I mean, there's a bit of a diagram kind of in here. It kind of looks like maybe they're the face hugger eggs or something. I can't really tell. That's what it kind of sort of looks like. And then on the back of the back, yeah, those definitely look like eggs. And then on the back of the box, you got the cast and crew responsible for making this figure. Very nice packaging on this. It is a little bit different than what we've gotten before in the fact that, like I said, this is kind of a plastic outer kind of slip sleeve, which is pretty nice, but the rest is pretty standard. So without further ado, let's get the Alien Warrior out here and see how cool he actually is. So here we have the Alien Warrior opened up and out of its packaging. And much like I do with a lot of these Hot Toy figures, I do really want to stress it specifically with this one, that it is absolutely imperative that you go over the instructions for it. Because of what they did with the body, the materials, things like that, there are some restrictions, and these go over it very nicely. For example, here it shows a caution on how to limit the use of the inner jaw, as it could deform the jaw itself and cause some damage. On the other side here, it shows the range of motion for the actual shoulders. This bit here shows you how to actually utilize the inner jaw, and then the range of motion for the elbows as well as the knees. But it does specifically mention that due to the nature of the material used, they recommend to not keep the elbows or knees bent for an extended amount of time so as that you don't damage the material. And that's something that we'll talk about here in just a second, but then you open her up and you can see you got the blood effects, how you would attach to the actual figure, how to assemble the display stand, and then some more cautions, such as the excessive bending of the arms. It also specifically mentions not to place the figure in areas with high temperature and humidity, otherwise it could be damaged. It does mention not to poke it with sharp objects, and because this does have some magnetic bits in here, it recommends not to place the figure near batteries, computers, credit cards, or other electronic devices, as the magnetic field may affect or damage these items. So like I said, very important that you go over these, especially on figures that do utilize a lot of new things. Sometimes we become a little bit complacent and get used to the way figures are and don't always look over these, but at the price that we're paying for these are very key in prolonging the life of your figure. Now, coming down for his accessories, that is one of the sore spots I think that some collectors have with this particular piece. As you can see, he doesn't really come with much. All you do get is one pair of hands that are kind of just opened up and just kind of relaxed. You do get two blood splatter effects, which do look really very nice. You can see some nice kind of almost booger green color on these. And then on the inside here, you got a little bit of a kind of dirty sort of look. Coming in here to kind of take a closer look at this. This is the smaller one that fits on his head, and I'll show how to attach these. But this also has the little magnetic piece, or well, metal piece that attaches to the magnet on his head. The larger one here is more designed for his body, and then you can see you got some groove sections right here, which just kind of friction into his rib cage. But these do look really cool. I absolutely love these, and gives a real cool display option for them, especially if you're going to have them battling or anything. This is a really nice touch. And then the other accessory that you get is this display stand. Now this is a really cool looking display stand. As you can see, it has a kind of battled sort of look on here. You got some gouges right here, which maybe, you know, bits of acid or something from his blood dripping down and, you know, melting or something. You got the adjustable cradle right here, which is a little bit different. You can see the wire is a little bit more outward as opposed to being, you know, the full U shape that we normally get. But you do have the adjustable section just right there. But real nice detail on this display stand. Really cool piece. It is pretty small, so it doesn't take up a lot of space, but the diorama nature of it is really very cool. I mean, you got some nice painted detail. You got the little warning tracks. You can see it says Alien Warrior on the front. And then, you know, nicely does have the, you know, kind of floor look of a spaceship or something like that. So I really do actually like this. That's a real nice display stand. But unfortunately, that is it. He doesn't come with anything else. And like I said, that's a bit of a sore spot for some collectors. It would have been nice if maybe he came with, you know, a small 1/6 scale face hugger, or maybe even the eggs themselves. Those definitely would have been nice additions, considering the price point that this guy is. He is $250, so he is a pretty expensive piece. And I can't understand the reasoning for it being so expensive, because honestly, everything on this is like a new piece. So it's kind of hard to, you know, criticize it, because there's nothing that you can really reuse this for other than, you know, making more aliens. But this guy really, really does look spectacular. Coming in to take a look at the actual head and the face and things like that, I mean, you can see great detail throughout the entire thing. You can see that he's got a bit of a bluish tinge to it. Now, coloring wise, this is a lot more accurate to how he looked in the actual film, but not necessarily how accurate he looked in terms of the actual prop used. A lot of fans know that he had more of a brown tone to it, but in the film, he was given a blacker and kind of darkish blue kind of hue to him. You can still see, though, like throughout some areas, he does have some of that brownish kind of look. Like you can see it down here in the arms and on his little shoulder pieces right here. But you can also see that the black and the blue is put in here as well, giving a more, you know, screen accurate representation of him. But the amount of detail is just terrific on this entire piece. I mean, you look at that mouth, that is evil and wicked looking. All throughout the actual head itself, that's one piece that changed kind of considerably from Alien to Aliens, is that Ridley Scott had the whole kind of whitish dome across his head, and then when James Cameron came in to do Aliens, he got rid of that. And honestly, I think this looks a lot nicer. I mean, it allows you to see some just really cool details underneath. You got the little ridges and everything right across there. You come to the back of the figure and you got his the spine things kind of coming out. You got the little spine section right here. I mean, the amount of detail and paint variation on here is just spectacular. So, I mean, at the $250 price, I do still think that he is absolutely worth it, just because the amount of detail and paint that's thrown here. I mean, it really is stunning looking. You can see some really cool detail in the rib cage area, almost like it's got a wet tone to it. I mean, the entire body kind of has that, and that blue tone, you know, like hue kind of in there, kind of helps give that. I mean, as you move it around, it does have a very nice sheen to it. Now, staying here up at the head, he does have the inner jaw gimmick, and this is what they were talking about, not leaving this, you know, extended for a length of time, because this whole lower section is actually a very, very soft rubber. I mean, you can kind of feel it kind of all the way throughout, from about here all the way down to the lower section of his jaw. This is all very, very soft rubber. The whole body itself has kind of like a PVC material to it, so it does feel fairly durable, but this is definitely something I would worry about potentially rotting over time. We saw it with the Ed 209. Some Batman suits actually had that as well from the '89 Batman. So you definitely want to be careful with this. And like I said, the instructions specifically say not to keep it extended, and also not to display it in places with heat and excessive humidity, as this could probably dry this out. But underneath here, and this is, I'm actually going to take his head off to show you this. It's a little bit easier to do. It is on a ball joint, so you can just pop it off just like so. But underneath his head here, and again, all the detail, I mean, like even underneath here, I mean, look at the detail on the bottom of his jaw. That's amazing. You got the little sliding piece right here, so when you slide this forward, you can see his mouth actually opens and the inner jaw comes out, and that's really cool. And then as you push it forward even more, it's a little bit hard to do, but pushing it forward, you can then take this and it slides out. So again, you bring this down, and then it extends out. So you can actually leave it displayed like that, and you can see because of the rubber material here, this stretches out very nicely, and then when you bring it back in, it kind of retracts, so it doesn't get all bunched up or anything. That looks great. Again, how durable that's going to be over time, I don't know, but the amount of detail that you can see on the inner jaw is really spectacular as well. You got the little veins and everything kind of going through there. Unfortunately, that's not articulated, but you do have some nice paint on the teeth themselves. But this whole thing, that looks absolutely terrific. I wish I could leave it displayed like that, because that does look stellar. Now, popping the head back on, coming back a little bit, again, you can see that is just a really cool display option that I wish that you could actually leave for a long time. Maybe if you live in an area that has like air conditioning 365 days a year, where it also removes humidity in the air, you might be able to get away with it, but I would be very careful and cautious with it. So putting that back in, I mean, you can like, hello, my name is Alien, what's your name? You can just have him talk or something. I mean, that's really cool, though. I absolutely dig that. Again, you got the little spines that kind of go through the middle here. Come down here to the actual body itself a little bit more. You can see those great molded in details here. Like I said, this entire body is a bit of a PVC sort of kind of rubberized material. Not quite like what we got with, say, the Hulk, or not as soft as what we have right here, but it does feel like it's probably a little bit more durable. But again, they do recommend not leaving it completely bent like so. So I would probably say your best bet, I mean, you can have it straight up and down like that, or you can probably put it at one bend like that. I think that's probably safe to do. But again, detail-wise, coming down here to the legs, getting these arms out of the way, you can see that the rib cage goes all the way around nicely. Those blue tints go throughout the entire body, and then you come down here to the tail, and again, great detail through the entire thing, and you can just see how long this gets. I mean, that is really awesome. And then at the very tip, it is a softer rubber, but you do have that little like kind of dagger thing, which does again look absolutely amazing. There is a wire on the inside there, so you do have posing options with it. It does have a similar feel to the rest of the suit, so I don't think it's as susceptible to, you know, degradation or anything as say the jaw might be. But again, you probably don't want to do too many dramatic, you know, bends to it. You know, keeping it on a nice kind of even kind of bend like this probably is good. You don't want to do a hard, you know, 90-degree bend on it. But then coming down again to the legs, looking at some more of those details, just stellar, just really quite spectacular looking. Now, unfortunately, because of the way that the bodysuit actually is, his articulation is fairly limited, and he doesn't have as much articulation. I think they listed as only saying 20 points of articulation, which honestly I could only really count maybe 18. I don't know where they're getting the other two, but I mean, you can count along with me. So for his articulation, the neck at the main section here is on a ball joint, so you can get it pivoting, you know, left and right, looking this way, looks up, down a little bit. These little shoulder pieces here kind of do get in the way when you're rotating them around. As the instructions showed, they only recommend you rotating him at the shoulders about 30 degrees out. So that's about it. Again, you're not going to get a lot of dramatic poses with him, and I think that's really kind of the other thing that people are a bit disappointed in. They're not able to recreate that kind of crouching, crawling pose that he had in the Aliens movie. In Alien, you know, most of the time he was kind of upright and walking around. So I guess it's, you know, a little give and take of sorts, but I still think you can get some really cool poses with him. You can rotate him at the shoulders very nicely, forward and back, but like I said, they only recommend moving it outward about 30 degrees. He does kind of pivot a little bit right here. Maybe that's the other joint that they're saying. It does rotate here a little, so you do get a little outward motion with it. The elbows here, like I said, they recommend leaving it more extended, but you can get a 90-degree bend on here, and then it goes, you know, obviously straight down just like so. Again, you got the nice softer material here. The actual arms here are articulated at the wrists themselves. They do look like they're just those standard, you know, pin swivel kind of joints that we have here. The actual upper ab tabs here, you can see those are on a bit of a ball joint, it feels like, so you can rotate that. They pivot side to side, move forward and back, and then as you move it forward, you also do get a really nice waist bit right here, so you can bend that down considerably far. I mean, that's about as far as you're going to be able to get it, but you can see it does end up bunching up right here. So if some of those joints could be moved, you could get some really cool poses. Hips, they do move forward and back, but they are very limited because of the way that the actual suit is. So it's not much. I mean, you can put it there, you can put it there, coming down here, so make sure you can see all of this in the actual shot. So you're not getting a lot of range of motion. It moves in and out a little, but you can see that the rubber does kind of bring it back when it gets too far. So I mean, about that is your range of motion. It is unfortunate. You do got about a 90-degree bend here at the knee, but again, they recommend not leaving it in that pose. I would probably say, I mean, straight like this probably looks a little bit ugly. You could probably bend it just once and get a pretty decent look with them. And then the ankles themselves are on the little pin joint, so you can rotate it here. You can kind of pivot those around. They rotate, so you get a nice range of motion there. The tail themselves, like I was telling you, does have a wire throughout the entire thing, so you can get some really cool dynamic sort of you know, over the shoulder, you know, I'm gonna stab you kind of poses or something like that. So really cool on the way that they did the tail. It is a little bit unfortunate that it is lacking some of the, you know, articulation to get some of those crouching poses, but I think in general, you know, something like this, I mean, just kind of standing there, it does look cool just by itself. So even though the articulation isn't there for the figure, I still think you get a really cool and gruesome looking display piece. For the little blood splatter things, like I said, you got the little metal piece on the inside here. On this little ridge on both sides, it does have a little magnet on it, so you just put it right there. You can also put it on the opposite side as well, so just line that up and you can position that right there along the side of his head, you know, as if he's getting shot or something, like, oh, somebody shot me. And you know, you can take this guy, and then this is where the rib cage section comes in. You just take these and you kind of friction that in there along the rib cage, and you can get a shot, something like that. So like I said, that is really cool, especially if you're going to be displaying them, you know, battling some of, you know, the aliens' mortal enemies, such as Iron Man. It's the only one that I had standing right here. But for the size, you can see that he does get a little bit bigger than, you know, the standard 6 scale figure, and that's with his legs a little bit crouched. So if you stand him up completely straight, he does get a little bit taller, obviously. So size-wise, what you're kind of looking at here, bringing in the ruler, is, as he falls, is about 14.5 inches or so tall. So yeah, he does get a little bit bigger than some of these other humanoid figures, but that's a cool kind of display. And you know, obviously you can have him, oh well, he wants to roll over, but you can have him battling, you know, the one and only Iron Man, and put those blood splatter effects on him to kind of give him that, you know, damaged kind of look. So scale-wise, I think they did a pretty good job here. But in general, I am really very happy with how this turned out. Would I like more accessories? Absolutely. Would I like better articulation? No question. But I still think this figure looks absolutely terrific. I do think that I'd be a little bit happier at a price point of around $210 or so for this, but I do understand the $250 price. There really isn't a lot of reuse possibilities for this guy other than making other alien warriors. So while I'm not a big fan of the price, I can understand it. The detail, the sculpting, the paint, everything that is on this is terrific. And truth be told, I am not a huge Alien or Aliens fan. Honestly, when they came out as a kid, they scared me, and I've kind of avoided them ever since. But I think for Alien fans, this is an absolute must-have. The look on it is just spectacular. Without question, the Xenomorph is a kind of cult classic movie monster, and fans absolutely love him. So if this is a figure that you'd be interested in picking up, he is available at Sideshow Collectibles. So all you have to do is click on the link down in the video description. You'll go to Sideshow, where you can check out availability on this guy, as well as the rest of the Hot Toys and Sideshow 1/6 scale collectible figures. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been optibotimus. Don't forget that if you like this video, to please like and share it. Also, be sure to subscribe in case you haven't already subscribed, After all, subscribbling is free, and until next time, I'll talk to you later.